Donald Trump is a weak, petulant little president. He knows that he is being humiliated over his breakup with Elon. He knows his budget is on thin ice. He knows that his attack on the peaceful protesters in Los Angeles has completely backfired, and that's why he's trying to puff himself up, pretend he's all macho, and start attacking Gavin Newsom personally, but that has backfired in the worst possible way, as Donald Trump is not only humiliated, but getting caught in a criminal lie. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does a lot to support the work of this channel. Now, before we can get into Donald Trump's crazy post and screaming meltdown, we need to start with some context from Tom Homan, of all people, who is now trying to backtrack on a statement he made yesterday.
And Jacob, you also spoke with border czar Tom Homan, who's been on the ground there. He's now pushing back on an answer he says was taken out of context when he said anyone who obstructs the immigration enforcement efforts there would be arrested, including Governor Newsom, including LA Mayor Karen Bass. Listen to what he told Morning Joe.
We did a 20-minute interview, and he cuts out a little clip that makes me and takes my words out of context. Here's what we said. And he talked about when I talked about these people that are these protests and rioting. When they cross the line, they got that. Well, here's why I said they have a right to protest. They have the First Amendment rights, but they can't cross that line. When he asked the questions that include Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, I was clear. They haven't crossed the line, but they're not above the law either. If they commit a crime, they certainly would ask for prosecution. That's what was happening. I never threatened to arrest Governor Newsom, so I'm not biting off on that.
Jacob, do you want to set the record straight?
Yeah, sure thing. Tom Homan said we cut a clip and took his words out of context. We did anything but. In fact, we presented the clips in their entirety in all of our airings, including in our reporting on NBCNews.com. He said that it was dishonest reporting. Couldn't be further from the truth. It was completely honest. And I'll let our viewers watch both of those interviews, clips of them right now for themselves. Here you go. If you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody.
This just goes to show that Donald Trump and his stooges know how weak they are. Gavin Newsom dropped the hammer on Donald Trump last night in an interview on MSNBC, and it didn't stop there, because he has been doing press all over the place, using his bully pulpit to call out Donald Trump, to call out Pete Hegseth, to call out Tom Homan, to call out their lies. His interview with Brian Tyler Cohen was incredible. I highly suggest that you check it out. But of course, Donald Trump was tuning in. Maybe he was even tuning into that Brian Tyler Cohen video, because he is now losing his mind. He did so in a post and then on the White House lawn. Of course, we're going to take a look at both and the screaming meltdown he had as his threats backfired. But let's start with this post right here. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "We made a great decision in sending the National Guard to deal with the violent, instigated riots in California. If we had not done so, Los Angeles would have been completely obliterated. The very incompetent governor, Gavin Newsom, and Mayor Karen Bass should be saying, 'Thank you, President Trump. You are so wonderful. We would be nothing without you, sir.' Instead, they choose to lie to the people of California and America by saying that we weren't needed and that these are peaceful protests. Just one look at the pictures and videos of the violence and destruction tells you all you need to know. We will always do what is needed to keep our citizens safe so we can together make America great again." All right, so that was just a whole bunch of BS and lies. Donald Trump only inflamed any small amount of protest that wasn't particularly peaceful. The LAPD put out a statement on day one thanking everyone, not only for protesting peacefully, but for protesting in general, recognizing that Donald Trump's illegal invasion of the community of Los Angeles needed some pushback, and that's what people are delivering in Los Angeles. Donald Trump continues to lie about this. We're going to get into the crazy threat he made directly at Gavin Newsom that's backfiring, but before we do, take a listen to how we describe the crowd in LA.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems in LA? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Donald Trump is calling the National Guard and Marines because he thinks this is an insurrection, which it's not, but refused to do so during an actual insurrection, this just shows what Trump's real focus is. Aside from the distraction from all the chaos in his administration, he wants everyone who supports him, anyone who will commit violent acts for him, to know if you do something, if you break the law for Donald Trump, he will back you. That is what this is. And more than anything than just the intimidation in LA, it's trying to break through to the rest of the country. And it includes threats to arrest people like Donald Trump did right here.
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it?
I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget.
Hey, Donald, Gavin already made it pretty clear. Come and get him. He doesn't care. He's not afraid of you. Come and get him. Gavin Newsom is not going to back down. He does not care about your arrest threats. Do you know why? Because they ring hollow, because you're scared, because you're panicked. You're not going to do it. You always chicken out. I know Taco Trump has a new meaning. Tom Homan's chickening out. Is it now Tom also always chickens out? These people always crumble. That is why what Gavin Newsom did last night was such an important sign to the rest of the elected Democrats in this country. Mark Carney seems to be the only person who has understood this from the get-go. If you stand up to Trump, if you have a spine, if you bully him back, if you say, no, Canada's not for sale, Los Angeles isn't for sale, like AOC said yesterday, New York is not for sale, Donald Trump crumbles, because of course he does, because he knows he's weak. So keep stepping up to him. And we saw the same thing from Senator Chris Murphy on the other side of the country, but still fighting back, because of course he is, because he's the best. And he was calling out Trump right here.
You know, we've all listened to Donald Trump's affection for martial law. We've watched him try to destroy our democracy and the rule of law over the last 6 months. And so, of course, it's incredibly concerning to see him threatening a federal takeover here. This is the first time in 60 years that you've had a president deploy the National Guard without a request of the local governor. But it can also be true that everything that's happened in the last 7 days between the fight with Elon Musk and now the deployment of the National Guard is probably also a distraction from the main story, which is that right now Donald Trump is trying to pass probably the most unpopular piece of legislation that he will attempt to move through Congress in his first term. He's going to throw 15 million people off their health care in order to fund a massive tax cut for the wealthy. It's going to add $2 trillion to our deficit. We're probably going to head into a recession. And so I do also think he's probably doing everything he can to try to get the entire political world to be talking about anything other than a piece of legislation that's going to fundamentally change this country. So, yeah, we have to point out the danger of what he's proposing to do in Los Angeles while also keeping our eye on the ball, which is a bill that's going to transform our economy and ruin a lot of lives.
Many things can be true at the same time. Having said that, people are very upset about these ICE raids in Los Angeles for these poor, terrified families. The initial promise was that these deportations would be for criminals only. That's clearly not what's happening here as they're trying to make certain numbers. What's your message to protesters? And also, what can elected officials do at this point? And your take on how Gavin Newsom is doing?
Well, I mean, my first message is to keep it peaceful. I mean, obviously, this is a moment where we have to be on the streets all over the country to protest what's happening to our immigrant community, but more broadly to protest what's happening to our democracy. This is the most corrupt administration in the history of the country, and we are going to rise to this moment by being out there on the streets. But you know, ultimately, I think the country sees what Donald Trump is trying to do here. He's looking for a fight. There's nothing in what he is doing that is about about peace or about restoring order. He's taking a protest that is relatively isolated. People in Los Angeles over the weekend would tell you that 99% of them went about their day, and it was pretty normal because this is not an invasion that has taken over the entire city. And he's trying to turn a protest that is pretty small into something that involves an even bigger confrontation so that he might actually be able to invoke the Insurrection Act. That would be a defining story of the week if he were to do it. And I just don't think, I think we have to make sure that we understand to not take him at his word. He's looking for a fight. He's not trying to calm tensions.
Senator, we'll turn to the bill in just a moment. One last beat on this. Is there any peril you see for Democrats, though, to be dismissive of what is happening there? If there is an image of a burning car, let's say, if there is some violence, even if it's isolated, what are the political risks here? How do you talk about that?
Well, listen, I think you make it clear that we only are for peaceful protest, but I don't think the American public wants martial law. I think the American public knows that local law enforcement can handle these protests. And, what we also have to talk about is that, Donald Trump only cares about protests when they're opposing him. I mean, every single day we should be reminding the American public that there were protesters at the Capitol fighting for Donald Trump to install him in power permanently on January 6th of 2021, who beat the hell out of police officers with metal poles and tasers and are out on the street today. So Donald Trump only cares about quelling violent protest or quelling protest writ large when it's protest against him. That's fundamentally undemocratic. And it's frankly an invitation for more violence on the streets. The message is simply, if you're violent in service of a Republican cause, you'll get a get out of jail free card. But if you're engaged in protest against the administration, well, then we're sending in the National Guard.
So, Senator, you were just on Twitter a few moments ago suggesting that, look, you got to do two things at once. Talk about this, but keep your eye on the ball. And in your estimation, that is indeed the legislation that's now in the Senate. Give us a sense as to what you see of it, and also what you're hearing from your Republican colleagues there, who a week or so back, as it was finishing up in the House, made clear they had some reservations.
Well, of course they have reservations. This is a bill that will ruin people's lives all across the country. You're talking, as I mentioned, about a bill that would throw 15 million people off of their health care. And for what? In order to fund a new massive tax cut for the wealthy and corporations, the richest Americans would get reportedly a $270,000 tax cut from this bill. And the bill would actually make 40% of the American public poorer, because the tax cuts for the poor and the middle class are like table scraps.
This is the energy that we need. This is the energy that we need. It brings me joy in this difficult time to see this fight. It is inspiring. We need more of this from elected Democrats. This is what I want to see from everyone in Congress. Continue to fight back and continue to call out the spineless opposition of Donald Trump every single day. We're going to be doing it on this show. And if you want to support that, because independent media is so important right now, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.